Hey everyone, in today's lesson, we're going to be using these Vernier motion detectors to figure out just how fast our cars are. In our last lesson, you guys used a meter stick and some stopwatches to try and collect some data and analyze it to come up with the speed for your cars. But today, we're going to see what's better, using analog tools like the tools you used last time or using digital tools. So, I'm going to just do a quick little intro into how to use these. We'll use different sensors throughout the year, but they all have kind of the same pretty straightforward setup process. So your first step is locate your motion detector. It's going to be one per table. You also want to locate your car, same one that you guys used last time. The first step is on your motion detector, click the power button. You should just only have to press it once and you'll know it's on when the light starts blinking. When you're done at the end of the class, you'll just hold the power button until the light stops clicking. What you're going to do is you're going to want to find Vernier Graphical Analysis. It should be an app that all of you guys have on the desktop of your computers. Go ahead and click it. When you open it up, you'll get this little pop-up window. Because we're using a sensor and we're doing data collection, click on this very first option. You'll see that it'll be searching for some devices and that all the motion detectors that are on will come up here with the code. Make sure you look at the code on the front of your motion detector and make sure it matches the one on your computer. Go ahead and click on the correct one and it will go ahead and connect. You know you're connected when you can hear it clicking. Click Done. Now, for our cars, we are collecting 3 different forms of data. We want to know its position, how far away is it from our motion detector, but we also want to know a couple other things. So, go to the top right corner, and you'll see this little icon over here. It's like a rectangle and 2 squares. Click on that. And the very first drop down, we're going to change this from 1 graph to 3 graphs. And by default, we're going to have a graph for position versus time, velocity versus time, and acceleration versus time. One other thing we're going to want to do is we're going to kind of change the rate at which it's collecting data. So in the very bottom corner, bottom left corner, where it says mode, we're going to click on that. Looking here, we're only going to change one thing where it says rate and interval. We're going to change this interval from 0.05 to 0.01. All right, that just means that it's going to collect that many samples over that time period. If you want, you can kind of come back and play around with this, but what it's going to do is we can change how long it's collecting data for. Right now, it's collecting data for a 5-second duration. If you want, you could extend this. But you may want to come back and play around with this based on how your experiment is going. Okay. Because the whole point of this lesson is both to learn how fast the car is moving and also to learn how to use these digital sensors, one thing you can do first before testing it with the car is let's just do a quick little test run of our digital sensors. So what you guys can do is set up your sensor on your table. Get like a notebook or a whiteboard or just something that's kind of a large surface. And then when you hit the collect button, you can just kind of move it slowly towards or away your motion sensor. You can do it quick, backwards, but whatever you do, just try to do it in a steady motion. And then just kind of play around with the data that you guys get. That way you can get a little more familiar with it before actually trying it with the car. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set up our dune buggy about 30 centimeters or 1 foot away from our motion detector. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. When you start collecting your data, you hit the collect button on your screen. Right, that's when it's going to start collecting data. So, a couple options. really you're going to need two different people to do this. It's a little difficult for me to do with one hand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to hit collect, and then I'm going to place it down 1 foot away from the motion detector. Now, we're going to want to be able to choose where we think the data actually started. So you can kind of see at the beginning, the position was a little bit funky, right? It started way up here and then dropped way down, right? Because that was a point where I was trying to hit the collect button and then put the car down. So it was a little bit messy in this first second. So what I can do is I can just generally eyeball it and select where I think the data actually started, right? So what I can do is I can click and I can highlight. All right, so I think the data was a pretty solid pattern from about 1 second to almost about 7 seconds. All right, this may be a little bit different for you guys. And again, if you guys feel like your data is super messy or you messed up, just hit collect again and try again, right? I would keep going until you get one set of data that you feel like is relatively accurate. When you selected your data, we can kind of zoom in on that data and get rid of all the messy stuff by making sure you've highlighted it and then hitting this zoom button. All right. Now we can see a little more of a clear pattern. Now I'm going to do the same thing for velocity. All right. Going to about 1 second to 7 seconds. And then same thing for acceleration, 1 second to 7 seconds. All right, and kind of play around with this so I can see some more accurate data here. I'm actually just going to take a smaller selection to just kind of get rid of some of this noise here. There we go. Same thing with the acceleration. I'm just going to choose one solid area where I see kind of a more consistent pattern. There we go. All right. So now I have 3 graphs, right? That took a little bit of highlighting and zooming to get 3 kind of more consistent patterns. And actually, I'm going to do this again here with the velocity. All right. And this is some data that I can use to analyze.